Hello all, welcome to my YouTube channel. In today's video, we are going to discuss about Azure Managed Disk and Disk Encryption process. So let's start. So what is Azure Managed Disk? So Azure Managed Disk are block level storage volume that are managed by Azure and used with Azure virtual machines. So like whenever we create any virtual machines, the by default it's created a OS data disk for us, and we have an option to create another disk, like another data disk we can also create it. So those disks are called the managed disk. Managed disks are like a physical device in an on-premise server what virtualized. So basically these managed disks are some type of physical devices which is kept in Azure data center, and Microsoft is like basically virtualize those devices, and that's why we used as a managed disk in a Azure portal. With managed disk, all you have to do is specify the disk size, the disk type, and provision the disk. Once you provision the disk, Azure handle the rest. So basically you have to choose the disk size, type, and that's all. Rest everything will take care by the Microsoft Azure. The available types of disk are Ultra Disk, Premium Solid State Drives, Standard SSD, and Standard Hard Disk Drive. So these are the disk which is available for us to use. So this is basically the comparison of all the disk types which we have in Azure. So based on our requirement, we have to choose. So for example, if we compare all these disks, so if you see the all the ultra premium SSD and SSD, these disk drive are the SSD solid state drive, and standard HDD, which is the hard disk disk drive. If you see maximum disk size, how much disk size we can use in as part of ultra disk, then it's a 65,536 GB, and same for premium. And for another type of disk, we have a less sizes, so these much of storage capacity we can use as part of this disk type. If you need a maximum throughput, then you have to choose ultra disk because it has more number of throughputs, like 4000 MB per second, and rest others have the minimum size as compared to ultra disk. So based on our requirement, like what purpose basically we are going to use this machine, accordingly we have to choose these disk types. So if I'll see the scenarios, so another option we have here, usable as a OS disk. So these disks can be used as a OS disk. So ultra premium we can't use as a OS disk. So standard SSD and standard HDD we can use. So if you have intensive workloads such as SAP, HANA, top tier database like SQL, Oracle, in that scenarios, Microsoft recommend to use ultra disk because of performance. Next we have again production and performance sensitive workload, then also we can use premium SSD V2, and same case for premium SSD. And if you have web server or enterprise application like for dev and test environments, you can use SSD, standard SSD. And if you have like non-frequent access, if you want non-frequent access and non-critical things is running on your VM, in that case for cost saving purpose you can use standard HDD also. So key management in Azure. So in Azure, encryption keys can be either platform managed or customer managed. So basically there are two kinds of keys we have: platform managed key and customer managed key, which we can use in Azure disk management. So first we have platform managed key. So platform managed key are encryption keys that are generated, stored and managed entirely by Azure. Customer do not interact with PMKs. The key used for Azure data encryption at rest, for instance, are PMKs by default. So we will see in demo, whenever we create any virtual machine, by default it assign a platform managed key for us. If you want customer managed key, you have to create certain services, then you can use customer managed key. So that things basically we will do in a demo. So we don't have basically any control over platform managed key, and we cannot see those keys. Next we have customer managed key. So customer managed keys gives you control over the keys, including bring your own key support or allow you to generate a new one. So that also we will see in demo how to create a customer managed key. You store these keys in Azure Key Vault. You can import your own RSA keys into Key Vault or create a new RSA keys in Key Vault. So if you have existing RSA key, you can import that key into Azure Key Vault and you can use as part of disk encryption process. Or if you don't have any RSA keys, you can also create a new key from the Azure portal. Customer managed key rely on managed identities for Azure resources. So basically, if you are using customer managed key, then it authenticate basically using the managed identities. So when you configure customer managed key, a managed identity is automatically assigned to your resources under the covers. If you subsequently move the subscription, resource group or managed disk from one Azure AD directory to another, managed identity associated with managed disk is not transferred to the new tenant. So customer managed key may not longer work. So for example, if you are using Azure tenant and for some reasons you want to move the managed disk or VM from one Azure tenant to another tenant, and you are using customer managed key, then in that case that customer managed key won't work because it's associated with the the particular managed identity is associated with the particular Azure tenant, so that will not work. So we have to keep in mind for such scenarios. Next, we have managed disk encryption options. So there are several types of encryption available for your managed disk, including Azure Disk Encryption, server-side encryptions. There are many, but I have chosen two because those two are very much useful and recommended. So Azure Disk Encryption. Azure Disk Encryption helps protect and safeguard your data to meet your organizational security and compliance commitments. Azure Data Encryption encrypts the OS and data disk of Azure Virtual Machine inside your VM by using the DMCrypt feature of Linux or BitLocker feature for Windows. If you are using a Windows VM, then it will use the BitLocker feature. If you are using the Linux VM, then it will use DMCrypt feature. Azure disk encryption is integrated with Azure Key Vault to help you control and manage the disk encryption keys and secrets. So basically, when you create a AD, Azure Disk Encryption, it basically integrates with the Azure Key Vault to manage all your keys in the Key Vault. Next, we have Azure Disk Storage Server-Side Encryption. So also referred to as an encryption at rest or Azure Storage Encryption. So Azure Disk Server-Side Encryption, also known as encryption at rest or Azure Storage Encryption. So server-side encryption encrypt your disk at the storage account level at rest. At rest means when it got stored. When you write data to the disk, it's transmitted back to the underlying storage account unencrypted and is then encrypted at the storage account level. So when your data is transmitted to the storage account level, by that time it's got unencrypted. But as soon as it start storing the data, it start encrypting at the storage account level. This is the basically diagram to show how managed disk use Azure Active Directory and Azure Key Vault to make a request using the customer managed key. So this is the diagram. You can see this is the admin user basically. It's create a disk encryption sets, and with the disk encryption set it goes to managed disk. Then with the help of AD it authenticates to the Azure Key Vault and it starts the encryption process. So an Azure Key Vault administrator create the Key Vault resources. The Key Vault admin either import their RSA keys or to Key Vault or generate the new RSA key in the Key Vault. So first thing, we have to create a Key Vault and we have to create a key. If you have key, you can import that key. If you don't have key, you can create your own RSA key. That administrator create an instance of disk encryption set resources specifying an Azure Key Wallet ID and key URL. So next thing, after creating the Azure Key Vault, what next we have to do? We have to create a disk encryption set, and we have to specify Azure Key Vault details onto the particular encryption set. When a disk encryption set is created, a system assigned managed identity is created in Azure AD and associated with the disk encryption set. Then Azure Key Vault administrator then grants the managed identity permission to perform the operation in the Key Vault. So that thing we will see in a demo. So because we have to assign the roles to use encryption set in the Key Vault. Then a VM user create a disk by associating them with the disk encryption sets, and then finally managed disk use the managed identity to send the request to the Azure Key Vault. So the complete workflow basically we are going to see in our demo. So in this particular video, I'll cover server side encryption with customer managed key, and in part 2 of this video, I'll cover Azure disk encryption process. So let's start the demo. So I'm on my Azure portal. So here basically for server side encryption with customer managed key, we have to create three things. First, we will create a Azure virtual machine. Then we will create a Azure Key Vault, and then finally we create a disk encryption sets. So first create a virtual machine. So I'll choose my existing resource group, which is demo. Name I'll give demo VM. Availability shown, no infrastructure required. Image I'll choose Windows Server. Here I'll provide username and password. Next we have disk. So you can see here in key management, by default it's coming platform managed key. We have an option for customer managed key and both platform and customer managed key, but we cannot choose these option here because we don't have any encryption sets available for now. So I'll create this virtual machine with platform managed key, and I'll create one data disk. So I'll provide name data disk. Size I'll choose any small size. Now in here also you can see we have option for customer managed key, but because of encryption sets we cannot create as of now. So I'm leaving it default with platform managed key. Next we'll go to networking management. I don't want anything to change here. Monitoring. I'll hit review and create. So the VM creation will take at least couple of minutes, so we will wait till then. Meantime VM creation is going on. What I will do, I'll create a Azure Key Vault. I'll open the new window. Resource group, I'll choose my existing, which is demo. Here I'll give some unique name, demo 5432 something. It should be unique. Region I'll choose my Central India. Pricing tier I'll leave it default. Next, access policies. So I don't want to change anything for now here. Networking. So we will wait to create a key vault. So it's in progress, and VM creation is also in progress. So we will wait for a minute to create this key vault and virtual machine. So now we have key vault in place, and also we have Azure virtual machine is also in place. So I'll go to resources of this virtual machines and we'll go to disk. So this is the OS disk and this is the data disk which we have created. So if you can see, both the encryption type is server side encryption with platform managed key, and here also we have server side encryption with platform managed key. Now what we want to do here, we want to change it for server side encryption with customer managed key. So instead of PMK, when we do the encryption, it should come CMK in both the types. And if you want to change it here, you cannot change because we have not created the encryption set, so we don't have any options. So what I will do, I'll stop this virtual machine. Meantime, I'll go to key vault and I'll go to keys. I'll create a new key here. So I'll put name demo key. So key is created. Now I'll open another new window. So now what we will do, we will create a disk encryption set. So I'll choose my existing resource group. Name I'll put demo set. Now encryption type. So here we have to set. So encryption at rest with a customer managed key, and we have option for both like platform and customer managed key. So for now I'm going to use encryption at rest, means server side encryption with customer managed key. And here I will choose my Azure key vault. So I'll choose my key vault, which is demo 5643. Now you can see this error. This error is because my current user from which I am logged in this particular Azure account don't have permission to key vault. So what I will do, I'll go to access control and I'll create a role assignment here. So I'll provide this user as a contributor role. Select members. So I'll choose my name here. Next, review and assign. So once we assign this role, it means my user now authorized to this key vault. So if I'll go back to this disk encryption, so I'll again, now you can see we are able to fetch the key which we have created, demo key. And the version, we will choose a latest version, which is current version. Next, tag, we don't want any tag. Review and create. So disk encryption's creation will take couple of minutes, so we will wait till that time. So disk encryption set deployment is completed. Now we will go to this resources. Now what we need to do, we need to associate this particular demo set which we have created with the Azure key vault. So you can see here, to associate a disk image or a snapshot with the disk encryption set, you must grant permission to the key vault. So first option, we can directly click here, it will automatically assign permission for us. If I'll go back to my key vault and I'll go to access configuration, go to access policy. So here we should able to see this application. If I'll open it, you can see this is a demo set. So now what text we have to do, we have to go to our Azure virtual machine and we have to go to disk, and as of now it's server side encryption with PMK, platform managed key. So now I'll open this particular disk, I'll go back to the encryption. Now you can see we have an option for customer managed key, and we have created this particular key is associated with the demo set, which is in our encryption set. So I'll choose this and we'll save it. It's successfully updated disk. So if again I'll go back to my disk, it's not updated because we need to start the VM to take the changes to reflect. So same thing we have to do with data disk also. So I'll go to encryption, I'll choose my demo set, and we'll save it. So it's added. Now I'll go back to my virtual machine and I'll start this virtual machine. Now virtual machine is started. So again I'll go back to the disk. Now we can see the encryption type. We have server side encryption with customer managed key in both OS disk and data disk. So that's how basically we enable server side encryption with customer managed key. So thank you so much. For in next video basically we will see Azure disk encryption. So see you in next video. Thank you so much.